Hello, my name is Kenneth Paul, and this is my woodworking shop. It's a genuine pleasure to have you here. I make these videos to share with you the projects and the woodworking techniques from here in my shop. Today's project is Chapter 7 on making a wooden heirloom tool chest. Today's project will be adding line banding detail into the chest. We'll be using 6mm guitar purfling to do that banding with. A word on how projects evolved. You start your project and you have a vision of where you want it to go, but you have to be willing and able to revisit that vision as the project evolves. I was originally going to put 2 lines of banding with a double square in each corner, but when I drew that out onto the chest, given the size of the chest and the positioning of the wording and inlays that were already in the chest, that double line just looked too busy to me. So I decided that a single line and a single square in the corners looked better on the box. I just thought it looked too busy with 2 lines. You have to be willing to reevaluate as you're going. It's an organic process. As you proceed through the process, you have to be willing to reevaluate each step along the way. And that reevaluation for me went from a double line to a single line. Let me know in the comments if you think that was the right decision or not. All right, without any further ado, let's get to it. And as always, if you like the content or you just want to support me, like, subscribe, comment. All right, let's get some purfling done. All right, where we stand now, I've started routing in the mortise that will hold our banding. Here's a piece of the banding laid in. Now, originally I was going to, and I still may, put 2 lines and a double square, but it's looking a little busy now that I've drawn it out. Here, let me show you the original design. Here's my original design. I saw a picture of a table and I drew the design I wanted. But now that I have the design drawn out on here, it's looking a little busy. So I'm going to do the first line in box first and see what that looks like before I decide to double it. You can see what's going to happen. It's going to come over, up, and then across. Same thing over here, up, over, and in. All right, let me show you me routing this 6mm groove, which will hold my 6mm guitar purfling. That's what this is. You buy this from any music supply house, any luthier. I got it on eBay. All right, let me set up and I'll show you the routing. All right. What we're set up for now is I've got a trim router set up with a guide block. I made a large guide block to make sure that I've got good surface contact on the curve. I've got my tape in place showing where the bottom of my route, where the mortise is going to stop. So, let's get going on that. I'll continue that. I'll make my mortise on the other side, do my square, connect across, and then I'll show you 45ing the little jig I'm going to use to cut the 45s on all these mating pieces, and then gluing up. All right, let me continue routing and then we'll get to that part. What we have here is some of the 6mm guitar purfling that we're installing as line banding. And here's 1/2 of our coopered lid with the purfling already installed into the groove you saw me mortising with the router. Here's the other half of the top. Same thing. We have our line of purfling mortised, glued in, sanded down. Here's the front of the chest. And again, here's the corner detail. All right, originally I was going to have 2 lines of this banding coming down. So another line would have come down here, created another box, and then gone under this line. But when I drew it out, it just looked like it was too busy. With the lettering I already have on the front of the chest, the double line with the double box just looked like it was too much. When you're designing something like this, you have to be fluid. As you draw it out, evaluate each step. Now, someone else might decide if they drew it out that they wanted that double line. When I looked at it, it looked too busy to me. So I decided on this single line, single square. All right, let me show you me installing this on the other side in the grooves you saw me route earlier. One moment while I set up. All right, here we have the back side of the tool chest. And you can see the mortise we've made. Almost the full depth of the purfling, leaving about a 1/64 of an inch sticking up to be sanded flush. I've cut the first piece. Let me get this installed. Let me see. There it is. Now, let me show you cutting the next piece. I'll show you what I'm using to cut. And this just squeezes in there, just so. All right. One moment while I set up. All right, what I have here is a Zona hobby saw with a little hobby miter box. It's perfect for this application. These are inexpensive. You can get these online, like $20-something for the set. All right. So now, let's hold these in place. There. Now, what I tend to do is to cut these oversized slightly. And then I've got a little groove cut into a board. I stick them inside that groove, sticking out just a tiny bit, and then I block sand them to fit. Let me try this out. And it is just a tad long. So, put it inside our groove. Are we in focus here? Okay. Don't have to take off much. Let's try that. That's good. I'm just going to Clean that up a little bit. I'm going to back bevel it just a smidge. Okay. All right, let me show you the fit on that. All right, here's the piece we just fit. 45, very good. 45, very good. Now I'll cut the next piece and the next piece and stop. I'll glue these 4 pieces in. Then I'll do the other 4 and this front piece together. Now when I glue these in order to press them in all the way, I use a wooden wallpaper or quilting seam roller. Simple tool, these are less than $10, but this lets you really press your line banding into that groove. Highly recommend it if you're going to do something like this. And the glue I'm using the same Type Bond Type 3 I've used on most of the rest of the construction on this. Gives you plenty of time. Then I run a layer of masking tape over it and then clamp a block on it. That's all there is to it. It's not difficult. Again, not easy, but not complicated. Route a groove, fill the groove. Makes for an attractive addition to a piece of furniture. All right, I'll finish routing. I'll finish installing this banding, and then we'll take a look at it before moving on to the next section. All right. And here we are with the line banding done. And because we routed it all together, here's the seam. Everything lines up just perfectly. And again, here's the seam. Perfect alignment. Come down to the corner. Cross to the other corner. This will really pop once the finish is on and brings out the color of all these different species of wood that are in this purfling. A quick note on sanding this. Again, we routed this so that it was just like a 64th pound of the surface. You start your sanding with a hard, flat wooden block. You don't want something that's going to glide over. You want to be able to cut off the high point. Something soft is going to smooth over it. You want something that's going to cut. So you start with a hard block. Then I move to a hard rubber sanding block. Then I do my final sanding with a medium density foam pad. You never really want to use your hand. That just introduces too much undulation. You want something that's going to keep the sandpaper as level as possible. And remember what I said. Change your sandpaper often. Fresh sandpaper cuts. Dull sandpaper just kind of smooths over. All right. Well, that's another project done on the toolbox. Next project, we have to have a way of lifting this. We're going to be adding wooden side handles onto the tool chest. That'll be chapter number 7. All right, well, I'm very pleased with how this banding came out. And again, this guitar purfling is not expensive. You get on eBay with shipping less than $20 for 10 pieces, and this whole box only took 8 pieces. They're generally 25-inch lengths. So it's an affordable way to add that little detail to your work, and good work is all about detail. All right, and again, If you enjoy these videos, you like the comments, you like the content I'm producing, do me a favor, like, subscribe, comment. All right, I'll see you on Chapter 7.